What you're about to hear is the most shocking collapse of presidential power we've ever seen. A federal judge just exposed Trump's secret corruption files, and Congress, both parties, is demanding he end his term immediately. We're talking about $230 million in taxpayer money Trump tried to take to pay his own legal bills, his criminal defense using your money. Lawmakers are calling it the biggest theft from the Treasury in American history. The judge says Trump's lawyers hid evidence, destroyed documents, and obstructed justice, all from inside the White House. The question now isn't if Trump falls, it's how fast this collapse will happen.
Joining us now, former Justice Department pardon attorney Liz Oyer and MSNBC political analyst Anthony Coley. He served in the DOJ as the director of the Office of Public Affairs during the Biden administration.
Let's start with that New York Times reporting about President Trump asking DOJ to comp him for the lawsuits and investigations into him. There were supposed to be guardrails. Those guardrails were an independent DOJ. Do those guardrails exist anymore?
Those guardrails do not exist within the Justice Department anymore, that's for sure. Only Donald Trump could think that he's entitled to compensation for being subject to legal process. People don't get compensated for having to go through a prosecution, even if the case is only dismissed. This is really just a shakedown. He's sticking his hand in the taxpayers' pockets to take money that is paid by all of us to try to enrich himself. And it's really par for the course with how he's treated the presidency writ large. Right now, there's nobody in the department who can stop him from doing this because he has fired all of the career officials who have all of the safeguards within their portfolios. Pam Bondi fired the ethics director of the Department of Justice, who should be telling her and Todd Blanche and many other officials that they need to recuse themselves from any decision making in this settlement that Trump is seeking from the department. His personal lawyers will decide whether he can give himself a payout from the taxpayers' pockets.
I'm sorry.
This is disgusting. This is disgusting.
I'm sorry. Because I'm a lay person. Okay?
Right.
I only ever used to be a comms person for the lawyers, and even then you wouldn't really let me in the building. I got stories about Anthony Coley.
There you go with that.
This is, maybe I don't understand. Right. What is the president owed money for?
You want to explain this?
Well, he is claiming that he should be compensated because he was prosecuted by a special counsel who was lawfully appointed. Right. That is not something that you get paid back for. If you have to go through lawful legal proceedings, that money comes out of your own pocket. It does not come out of the pocket of the taxpayers.
So should everyone else who's been prosecuted by a special counsel now get in line to get a compensation?
Yeah, no. I guess it's like, okay, thank you for clarifying. So I'm not crazy. He's asking to be paid for nothing. He's literally making it up. Okay, so he is trying to turn grievance into governance yet again.
Right. So this would be one of the most blatant acts of political corruption of our generation if it were to happen. But I want to be clear about this because there are a couple speed bumps along the way, right? A taxpayer group could file a lawsuit to prohibit this, right? Because this is not the president's money these are the people's money, right? 230 million taxpayer dollars. And I think, I'm not a member of the bar, but I think there could be some people in the bar who raise questions here about ethical concerns, right? That the president's personal attorneys are actually the ones approving this. So I think there's some bar things there. But I want to be clear about even just the number itself. We're talking $230 million. When I was at the Justice Department, the last time there was a similar type of claim like this, it was for the Dylan Roof matter. Do you remember this? Mother Emanuel. Mm-hmm. Those people got paid out $88 million. So I want to put that in perspective, right? And the reason that they got paid out is because the FBI failed to conduct a background check on those shooters. So apples and oranges here. This is completely unprecedented. It's uncalled for. It's disgusting. And I want to just say one additional thing here. There's a government shutdown happening right now across the street. And on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, they're tearing down the East Wing. So where are your priorities, Mr. President? What you're supposed to be acting on behalf of the American people, and you're really just trying to line your own pockets here.
It's wild how the media always finds a new way to pretend outrage when Trump fights back. They call it a shakedown when he demands fairness, but stay silent when billions disappear into bureaucratic black holes or foreign wars. I think what really bothers them isn't the dollar figure, It's the fact that Trump won't play by their double standard anymore. Every time a Democrat drains the Treasury for pet projects or family foundations, they call it investment. But when Trump questions the system that's been weaponized against him for years, suddenly it's corruption. This same talking heads who ignored the Russia hoax bills, the endless investigations, and the lawfare circus now act shocked that he wants accountability. In my view, this isn't about $230 million. It's about power. It's about reminding the elites that the Justice Department doesn't belong to their cocktail circles. The media's panic shows how afraid they are of losing control of the narrative. They built this mess. Now they're watching it boomerang. The real shakedown came from the establishment that's been milking taxpayers for decades. Trump just turned the spotlight back on them, and they can't stand it.
It's the absurdity of Kash Patel's claims. Quote, there is simply no support for FBI Director Patel's recent assertion that Mr. Smith put the toll records in a lockbox in a vault and then put that vault in a cyberplace where no one can see or search these files. It's not clear what cyberplace in a vault in a lockbox Director Patel is describing, but Mr. Smith's use of these records is inconsistent with someone who was trying to conceal them. Lockbox, vaults, I mean, Patel seems to be all over the place in terms of exactly what this matter regarding Jack Smith is about.
Tonight, the stakes are simple. A sitting president is trying to make the nation's top law enforcement agency cut him a personal check. Not for public work, not for a national crisis, for his own legal fights. According to multiple outlets, Donald Trump wants the Department of Justice to hand him a payout of $230 million. Here's the core of it. Trump's lawyers filed 2 administrative damage claims under the Federal Tort Claims Act, one tied to the Russia investigation, another tied to the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago. And they're pressing for a combined $230 million award through an internal DOJ process. Legal experts say this is unprecedented in scale and scope. The FTCA is with a slush fund for politicians to reimburse private legal bills, and large settlements are rare, tightly scrutinized, and almost never this large. Let's translate the jargon. The president is asking his own subordinates, some of whom were his personal defense attorneys, to decide whether the federal government should pay him personally for investigations into his conduct. That's the ballgame. No matter where you land politically, that's the very opposite of distance from power. House and Senate Democrats are pushing back hard. They've opened inquiries, demanded documents, and warned DOJ that any payout would violate bedrock ethics rules and potentially the Domestic Emoluments Clause, which bans a president from pocketing extra benefits beyond a fixed salary. They're also calling for recusals now. On October 28, mark that date, the debate reached the Senate floor. In the middle of a government shutdown, senators read into the record language condemning the idea of paying the president $230 million and warning that using DOJ as a personal ATM shreds public trust. That condemnation matters. It puts the institution on the record. This is the through line tonight: rule of law versus self-enrichment. A democratic system works only if public office isn't used for private gain, especially not with the power to sign off on your own payday. Now, let's talk conflicts. Reporting shows the ethics infrastructure at DOJ has been hollowed out this year, key watchdogs removed, senior ethics voices sidelined. At the same time, Trump insists the decision about paying him would have to go across my desk. That is the definition of a conflict of interest. It's also the definition of why we have ethics rules at all. Even former DOJ officials are calling this a shakedown because that's what it looks like when a chief executive leans on subordinates for a personal financial benefit dressed up as compensation paid by you, the taxpayer. Does the law ever allow a government to cover legal costs? Yes, when officials are sued for acts within their official duties. That's not what this is. These claims revolve around investigations into alleged personal conduct. Mishandling classified documents, obstruction, conduct tied to campaign activity. That's why the ask is so alarming. It blurs the line between the public office and the private person, and it blurs it on purpose. And the number $230 million isn't random. It creates a shock effect. It's headline-sized. It dares the system to say no. If the system says yes, a red line moves. If a president can collect a 9-figure check from his own Justice Department, future presidents will try too. That's how bad precedents get born. Back to Congress. Senate Judiciary Democrats put it bluntly. This demand should be rejected on constitutional, ethical, and financial grounds. And anyone with prior ties to Trump's defense team must recuse. That's not partisan spin. It's institutional maintenance. If you care about DOJ's independence in a Democratic administration, you should care about it now. Let's address the counterspin we'll hear. You'll hear, the investigations were witch hunts, so he deserves compensation. But witch hunts don't generate indictments, guilty verdicts, or court-approved searches without probable cause. You'll hear, he won't keep the money, he'll donate it. Donations don't cure conflicts. A president can't order the government to pay him and then launder the optics by promising charity. The emoluments clause doesn't include a donate later option. Exception. You'll hear, it's just a claim, no harm in asking. There's harm the moment a president pushes subordinates to decide on his personal payday, especially when those subordinates are former defense lawyers. The pressure is baked in. The chilling effect on dissent is baked in. The public doubt about DOJ's independence is baked in. And yes, we've seen the broader pattern. Purge the ethics guardrails, install loyalists, then test the boundary. It's the same pattern that shows up in attacks on inspectors general, in demands to federalize the National Guard for domestic policing, in threats to defund courts that rule against the president. The target is the same every time. Any institution that might say no. Here's the constitutional bottom line. Congress holds the purse. DOJ doesn't get to hand a president $230 million for personal benefit without going through appropriations and without clearing constitutional barriers. If anyone tries to jam this through a quiet administrative process, that's not just bad optics. That's a constitutional crisis in slow motion. And here's the civic bottom line. Every dollar is your dollar. In a moment when families are staring down higher premiums and a federal workforce is furloughed, the idea of prioritizing a presidential legal payday is morally upside down. Now, about the president's own words. He said any decision would have to go across my desk. That's not a legal argument. It's a power argument. It treats the executive branch like a personal law firm and the Treasury like a petty cash drawer. So what should happen next? First, blanket recusals. Any DOJ official who has previously represented Donald Trump, worked on his private defense, or has a direct personal tie to these claims must step aside. Second, public transparency. If any part of this process continues, the letters, the legal theories, and the math should be made public. Third, congressional oversight, real oversight, with hearings under oath. If this demand is as defective as experts say, put the defects on the record. This is the moment to reassert a simple civic truth. Government is not a vehicle for personal enrichment. That's not a liberal value or a conservative value. It's an American value, and it's non-negotiable. Let's close where we began. Rule of law versus self-enrichment. If you let a president cash out investigations into his own conduct, you're not just bending an ethics rule, you're rewriting the job description. Presidents manage the Justice Department on behalf of the public, not on behalf of themselves, period. And because this will move fast, keep your eye on the verbs. Demand, recuse, disclose, oversee. If we see those verbs, the system is working. If we don't, the system is being worked. 3 sentences to take with you. We don't pay presidents to erase personal liability. We don't let conflicted subordinates sign their boss's check. And we don't trade the rule of law for a receipt.